Hey guys, how are you doing tonight? Welcome to the Killjoy Guide, the Left Feminist podcast for the 99%. I'm your host, Killjoy Meg. It is good to see everyone tonight. Definitely start putting your comments down below. It's good to see you guys. So, tonight, what I wanted to do, we were supposed to have Esha from Historically on. Unfortunately, she could not make it. Hey Nadia, hey Notori. She unfortunately couldn't make it, so we're going to do a bit of a breakdown show tonight. Because, I'm an educator. That's something that I love to do. So the thing I want to talk about tonight is, hey JC, is what exactly does it mean when we say we support women? Because I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about that. I don't know about you guys, but usually when I hear people say, "Oh, women should be supporting other women. We need to stop undercutting each other." And basically what I'm hearing is we should not be holding each other accountable. I don't know if maybe I'm just the only one. I mean, I definitely agree that we should support women in a way that, we should be, uplifting women, and we should be empowering women. I agree with all of that. 100%. But there's a difference between supporting women in their goals and supporting women in, you know, leaving their abusive spouse or something like that, giving women that support versus blind support and not holding each other accountable. Is what it sounds to me when people, say, "Oh, women are too quick to criticize each other." You know, we should be supporting each other. Like, a lot of it sounds like it's very uncritical. You know what I'm saying? So I want to kind of tackle some of those questions. And this is especially true sometimes when it comes to women, particularly white women against women of color. I know this tends to be, a bit of a thing that happens, that white women like to say, "Oh, we should be supporting each other," but then they don't support their sisters in the Black community or the Latina community. There's not a lot of uplift there. There's not a lot of uplift of working class women. You know what I'm saying? So I want to break this down. So first off, I want to start with a tweet that I received when I had a little critique of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Okay? And like, I'll be the first to say, I have no real beef with AOC. I just don't think that she's doing the job that we put her in Congress to do. And I'm going to critique a policy or a tactic that I don't appreciate or that I don't think works. And so I think that there is a big disconnect between saying, you don't support women or you're bashing women versus, no, I'm criticizing that person for having a bad take or pushing the wrong thing or saying something that I disagree with. So let me share this tweet with you guys. So this was a response to somebody who made a comment on a tweet in which I criticized AOC for, the CNN special that is going to be happening with Dana Bash. She's going to be talking to AOC. And AOC says something in that, let me go ahead and bring that up. That way you guys can see it. Let me bring it's gonna take me a second, get back to it. Actually, let me stop this for 1 second. That way I can also share the sound with you guys. Let me come back to it. Because I think that is just as important. So this, well, actually, I don't know if I can share this sound because it's CNN. I'm sure they would probably strike me for music. But let's go ahead and give it a shot. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. Where did it go? Sorry, guys. I had it on something else, and now it moved on me. think I'm going towards more recent tweets. Sorry, guys. My bad. Where the heck is it? I lost it. Hold on. I hate it when this happens, when you have something on at the ready. Ah, there we go.
Love you back. And reviled. Find out when I... What's it like to be adored? Love you back. And reviled. Find out when I speak with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez about being ambitious.
Power can be beautiful.
Being terrified.
I was preparing myself for the worst.
And
are you going to challenge Senator Schumer?
Join me for Being, a new CNN series.
Monday at 9, only on CNN.
What's it like?
So I had criticized AOC for this specific comment that she made, in which she says power can be beautiful. And, I didn't say out front why I was critical of this statement. And so I'll get into that with I got into it a little bit with my response. So let me go back to that. And I could make this bigger, but unfortunately I can't, because the person who made the comment blocked me. So this is the only way that I can show it. All right, so in making that comment, this person responded, "Women are always the first to not uphold other women. It is sad no matter what the context is. Women do a lot and get no credit. Look at all the men who support this or who support Doron. Come on, do we have to make everything about Jimmy Dore, guys? Come on. Who go along with the woman bashing. It is sad." So I responded, so because I'm critical of AOC saying power can be beautiful, I am a woman. I'm a woman bashing Dore stan. Like, that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, guys. So, as I said, this has nothing to do with not upholding other women. This has to do with your narrow view of what that means. And what I meant by that is that I'm being critical of AOC saying power can be beautiful. Because in a way, she's not entirely wrong. Power can be beautiful. The unfortunate reality is that very often power is not wielded in a beautiful way. Power can be corrupting. So when I'm critical of AOC saying power can be beautiful, it's like, okay, but power for whom? What power is beautiful? And how exactly are we using that power? Because sure, we want people to have power over their own lives. We want people to have power in politics and have their vote mean something. That type of power can be beautiful. But this is exactly what I'm getting to, Weird Pilgrim, that this is very much a girl boss, badass woman type of uplifting of women, because it's a very uncritical take on supporting women. Like, oh, support women and everything that they do. Okay, so if you're going to be supportive of all women, does that mean that you're also supportive of Gina Haspel being the CIA? The head of the CIA? Are you supportive of all the women who are making money in the military-industrial complex? Like, are we supportive of all of these women? Girl boss? So this is what I'm talking about when I say that there is such a thing as being uncritical in supporting women. As being uncritical is not a good thing. Bashing women, degrading women, that's not good. We should not be bashing or degrading women, but that's not what I was doing at all. I was not bashing AOC. I was trying to make a point about something that she said. And I am very critical about someone. Yes, exactly, Virtual Jonathan. Do we support Thatcher? Do we support Yellen? Like, this is a very uncritical view when we just, blanket statement say support women. That's really damaging. And that doesn't, especially when we're not supporting, lower income women, we're not supporting poor women, we're not supporting women of color, indigenous women, women in the global south. Are we supporting any of them? Because I know they need a lot of support. So this is what I'm talking about a very uncritical version of feminism. It's a very bourgeois version of feminism. So let me continue looking at this tweet because I can explain it more. So as I said, this is nothing to do about not upholding women. Like, we need to be holding everyone in power accountable. Doesn't matter if they're a woman or a man. And I say that women do a lot with very little credit. Do you understand how many billions of dollars of unpaid labor that women do every year? Billions of dollars, guys, of unpaid labor that women do not get credit for. Physical labor, emotional labor, like billions of dollars that women will never, ever, ever see. But cheerleading a politician does nothing to change this. Nothing. What exactly does me cheerleading AOC do? Am I going to coddle her into submission to make sure that she's actually doing her job? No, she has power, and I expect her to use that power for good. So yes, I am going to be holding her accountable just like I would any other politician. It doesn't matter that she's a woman. In fact, because she understands, I do expect more. As I say in this tweet, supporting women is a useless phrase if it's not reciprocal. And I want to bring up this. Let me stop this, and I'm going to switch the screen for just a moment because there's something else that I want to bring up. Let me share. Let me share my regular screen because I think that because I want to show you guys something that comes from Bell Hooks. So Bell Hooks, she quotes, this is a quote from Mary Barfoot, someone that I greatly admire. But let me read this part of it. So it says, mainstream patriarchy, I'll start from right here. Mainstream patriarchy reinforced the idea that the concerns of women from privileged class groups were the only ones worth receiving attention. Feminist reform aimed to gain social equality for women within the existing structure. That's what we're dealing with right now. We have a system of patriarchy, and we have women working within the structure in order to try to change it. Privileged women wanted equality with men of their class. So this is that fake meritocracy that we're always talking about. So despite sexism among their class, they would not have wanted to have the lot of working class men. Feminist efforts to grant women social equality with men of their class neatly coincided with white supremacist capitalist patriarchal fears that white power would diminish if non-white people gained equal access to economic power and privilege. Supporting what in effect became white power reformist feminism enabled the mainstream white supremacist patriarchy to bolster its power while simultaneously undermining the radical politics of feminism. So in other words, all these efforts of particularly white feminists and white elitist feminists and elitist white women, particularly ones who are getting into positions of power while in the existing structure, basically and we know this for a fact that a lot of the times when women get to those levels of success, it's not because of their femininity. It's because of their way of being able to harness their masculinity. Because there is female masculinity. And by playing into those patriarchal structures and patriarchal ideas of success. You know, in order to be a boss woman, you have to have, you see this a lot in films, like that kind of cold veneer and kind of pushing family aside, you know, giving up the feminine in order to take on masculine traits in order to be successful. We see that a lot in film. So it's become acceptable to take on those roles. But that's because they're not changing the structure. They're basically just preserving and upholding the structures that got men in power. Just women are also using those same power dynamics. They're not changing them. And this is known also, there's something called the queen bee effect, where once women get into power, because there can only be so many women in power, they then knock down the ladder after they've broken that glass ceiling. They knock down the ladder, and they're very harmful to the women beneath them because they need to keep that position of power for themselves. So I'm sorry, am I supposed to be supportive of that? Am I supposed to be supportive of that? I don't think so. So she goes on. Only revolutionary feminist thinkers express outrage at this co-optation of feminist movement. Our critique and outrage gained a hearing. Our critique and outrage gained a hearing the alternative press. In her collection of essays, The Coming of Black Genocide, radical white activist Mary Barfoot boldly stated, "There are white women, hurt and angry, who believe that the 70s women's movement meant sisterhood, and who feel betrayed by escalator women, by women who went back home to the patriarchy. But the women's movement never left the Father Dick's side." So meaning that the elitist women who had adopted feminism without truly doing consciousness raising and unlearning their sexism, they never left the patriarchy. They just saw feminism and said, oh, this is a good opportunity for me to gain social mobility. This is a good way for me to raise myself in my economic class and gain equality with the men of my class. So that's what she means by the women's movement never left the Father Dick side. They never unlearned sexism, so they're still using the same patriarchal structures in order to gain power. So there was no war, and there was no liberation, because all women are not free. All women are not free. There is no liberation. We got a share of genocide profits, and we love it. Let me read that part again. We got a share of genocide profits, and we love it. So basically, those elitist women became just further oppressors. Not that they weren't already. Not that elitist white women weren't already oppressors, because we know, especially during slavery, the female slave owners were just as bad as the male slave owners. Queens can be just as bad to the serfs as the kings, or the ladies are just as bad to the peasantry as the lords. This is not anything new, but we got a share of genocide profits, and we love it. We are sisters of patriarchy and true supporters of national and class oppression. Patriarchy in its highest form is Euro-imperialism on a world scale. If we're Dick's sister and want what he has gotten, then in the end, we support that system that he got it all from. So basically, Barfoot is saying that if we are using the same tools as men used to gain power, because we want that power that he has, and we use those same tools to acquire it, then we are upholding patriarchy. We are supporters in upholding patriarchy. Because we can also gain power in patriarchy if it means oppressing other people. That's fucked up. All right, here's a good continuation. So indeed, many more feminist women found and find it easier to consider divesting of white supremacist thinking than of their class elitism. Because very often, because we know if we can have, we can have a brown, as Cornel West likes to say, we can have a black face in a high place. People don't have a problem with that, as long as they're still playing these same politics. I mean, look at Cory Booker right now. Cory Booker is giving money, like, I can't remember which exactly. Maybe you guys can tell me. What was it? I think it was Money for Cops. Is that what it was that Cory Booker recently co-signed on? Maybe you guys can tell me. I'll wait for you guys. Yeah, so it was cops giving money to the police. Okay, so Casey says yes. Roxanne says yes. Okay. All right. So back to bell hooks for a moment. So this is all internalized sexism, internalized racism, guys. Like, we are all taught to seek higher class interests, particularly people who already come from privilege. They're always less likely to divest their class elitism than anything else. But they don't understand that these things are hand in hand. Like, you can divest in white supremacist thinking rather than class elitism, but there's an intersectionality there. Because if you're not giving up your class elitism, you're not really giving up your white supremacist thinking. Because those things are intersectional. You can't get rid of one without getting rid of the other. Okay, so as she continues, as privileged women gained greater access to economic power with men of their class, feminist discussions of class were no longer commonplace. Instead, all women were encouraged to see the economic gains of affluent females as a positive sign for all women. In actuality, these gains rarely changed the lot of poor and working class women. And since privileged men did not become equal caretakers in the domestic household, the freedom of privileged class women of all races has required the sustained subordination of working class and poor women. In the 90s, collusion with the existing social structure was the price of women's liberation. At the end of the day, class power proved to be more important than feminism. And this collusion helped to stabilize feminist movement. So that's a great way of simply talking about what I'm referring to. The fact that all these things are intersectional. Like, just because you divest of your, unsexist thinking, or you divest of sexist thinking or racial white supremacist thinking, like, that class divide will always continue those same structures. Because as long as there is class elitism, you will still have sexism, because there's still that hierarchy of, rich men, rich women, middle class men, middle class women, poor men, poor women. Those are always going to exist unless you get rid of sexism, get rid of racism, get rid of imperialism, because all those things are all underneath the same pool. Okay, so when I say to AOC, when I question her saying power can be beautiful, again, I question, what type of power are you talking about? Whose power? Because if you're just acquiring power, you're not using it to make things better for those who are still powerless, then what good is that power? Because you're not using it for the betterment. Like, we put you in there to use that power to the betterment of all of us, and you're not doing that. So, yes, power can be beautiful, but for whom? Exactly, Jonathan. She is obscuring class divisions. Absolutely. So let me go back to that tweet that I was talking about a moment ago to continue this discussion. I'm not sure if I finished talking about that one. Let me bring it back up. So I say, we must remain critical of our politicians and hold them accountable. This is not the same as harassing or bashing them. Like, I didn't say anything mean about AOC. I didn't say anything about, like, oh, she's, corrupted because she's a woman or anything like that. I'm not, putting her down for anything. I'm being critical of something that someone in power has said about power. Like, that's what I'm critical of. I'm not critical of her. I'm critical of the point that she made. So I say we must remain critical of our politicians and hold them accountable. This is not the same as harassing or bashing them. I am critical of power. I'm not a supporter of bourgeois, girl boss feminism. I'm a supporter of feminism for the 99%. Okay? And okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close that one. Right. I think that this is actually a good point. The AOC probably thought nothing of that phrase except as a cute soundbite. Right, thank you, Optimism of the Well. That is awesome of you to say. The poor experience the same faults of society. Right. Reputation, I'm going to push back on that. Because the whole idea of what this about women, supporting women, empower women, the whole idea of it is that for under patriarchy, women are we're expected to compete against one another for male attention and in order to, gain a good husband. That's very much been the idea behind, women hating women. Like, it's always for the betterment of men. So whenever we say, supporting women, it's supposed to be about uplifting women, stopping the competition amongst one another, and having female solidarity with one another. And this is true even of I can't remember who wrote it, but someone was talking about during slavery. You would think that women that the white slave owning women would feel guilt, feel bad about their husbands raping black slave women, but it was actually the opposite. They were actually jealous of the black slave women because they saw them as competition for their husband's affection. How messed up is that? So underneath patriarchy, women supporting each other is seen as taboo. So that's why there's so much emphasis on, we women should support one another. We shouldn't be competing with one another. Unfortunately, as I just said, what often happens is that turns into kind of a girl boss attitude of supporting women no matter what it is that they're doing. It's very uncritical. So let me bring up something else. Where's my book? So again, I'm turning to bell hooks here. I'm turning to bell hooks. This is from her book, Feminist Theory from Margin to Center. And she says here that she talks about the difference between solidarity and support. So listen to what she says. Solidarity was a word seldom used in contemporary feminist movement. Much greater emphasis was placed on the idea of support. Support can mean upholding or defending a position one believes is right. It can also mean serving as a prop or a foundation for a weak structure. So again, the idea of uncritically holding up women because there's this idea of that supporting women means that we're uplifting each other, we're showing solidarity, but really very often what happens is that's just akin to a very shallow support. It's based on a very weak structure. Like, imagine, like, we say, we need to have a female president. We need to have a female president, without being critical of the woman running for president. But no, you have to support her because she's a woman. Because there's a special place in hell for women who do support other women. See how that works? When we have a very uncritical version of supporting women. This is very interesting what you're saying. Could be biological or something hardwired. Except that a lot of the women who like to use this type of phraseology don't support trans women. Stevie, I support Hillary. She had a heart being a woman in a man's world. She's a girl boss. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was certainly sexism against Hillary Clinton. There was. Very much so. We can all acknowledge that there was sexism against Hillary Clinton. I'm not gonna say anything against that. It was true. However, in order for her to gain power, the power that she had, she did it by upholding those same structures that she used feminism as a way to gain power. It's like, I'm saying, like, oh, this is just sexist. Like, it didn't matter if any attacks against her were legitimate, because of the sexist attacks that were legitimate. Even the attacks that were illegitimate, any attacks against her that were legitimate, she just cast off as sexism. And we saw the media help her with this. We saw this. And so let me continue on. So this latter meaning had a greater significance in feminist circles. Its value emerged from the emphasis on shared victimization. So that's what this whole thing became about. That's why what I say about a weak structure is that it's built on a structure of identifying all women as victims. And if all women are victims, then anything a woman does that helps her to gain power, that is her beating the victimization. Not considering at all the faults of that woman. Like, women are not, like, this is one of the problems with, like, girl boss feminism and supporting women uncritically, is that we're basically putting women on a pedestal, saying that they are without fault, which we know is not true. So if we're saying all women are without fault, okay, then who's going to be the next president? Sarah Palin? Tommy Lauren? Candace Owens? When you think about it that way, it sounds ridiculous. And also the fact that this does not go in other directions. This does not go in other directions. Like, was Hillary supportive of the women who were accusing her husband of rape and sexual assault? No. She was bashing them too. And after her, during her candidacy as president in 2016. In 2016, she ran for president as, the female candidate, and had Madeleine Albright come out and say, there's a special place in hell for women who don't support other women. But then, did Hillary then turn around and support Cynthia Nixon for governor, even though she would be the first governor of New York? The first lesbian governor of New York as well. Did Hillary Clinton support Cynthia Nixon? No, she didn't, did she? She did not support Cynthia Nixon when she was running for governor of New York. No. So it's sisterhood and support for her. I'm with her. I'm with her. That's the whole point. I'm with her. It's not I support women. I'm with her. I support Hillary Clinton. And that's the problem. This is what I mean about, girl boss feminism and escalator women, as Mary Barfoot said. It's about those women rising into power and only using their power for their own self promotion. Because you did not then see Hillary support Cynthia Nixon. And if we had supported Cynthia Nixon, we wouldn't be going through what we're going through with Cuomo right now. So is this women supporting other women? No. This is Hillary supporting herself. That's what it was. It was Hillary wanting power. Exactly, improvisation. It's, I'm with her, but not her. No. Because it's all about power. It's not actually about supporting women. It's about women supporting her and her accumulation of power. Just as Bell Hooks said in that statement that I wrote a moment ago, that it became about affluent women gaining power, and all women should just be grateful for it because now we have a female president who will also oppress us. Yay! Exactly. We're supposed to be with her, but she's not with you. Nope, not at all. Not at all. Definitely not. And so, as I said, we wouldn't be having this problem with Cuomo right now if Cynthia Nixon had won. Not that I'm saying that if Hillary had endorsed her, she would have won. We don't know that. We can't, Monday morning quarterback that election. But the main point that I'm making is that if she were in fact truthful in her idea that we need to be supporting all women, then she would be backing that up. She likes to talk the talk. She doesn't walk the walk. And a lot of these different people do. And it's the same with, it is the same, someone brought up Kamala Harris. It is true. Like, nobody supported Kamala Harris. And it had nothing to do with the fact that she was a woman of color or, a woman or a woman of color. The fact of the matter is there was a lot wrong with Kamala Harris. I mean, look at what she did in California. Like, she was the AG and she locked up more Black and brown people. She refused to let a lot of people out of jail because she wanted them to be used as prison labor. She locked up parents of truant children, most of them Black and brown. So this is what I keep saying about not being, like, there's solidarity with women, and there's a difference between solidarity and support. Okay, and we'll get into that a little later. But let me continue this for a second. So as I said, all this idea of, supporting women, and the reason that so many women have been able to get away with using the mantra support women in order to gain power is because of this idea of women as being victims of patriarchy. The idea of the understanding of patriarchy, we need to understand is that because we live in patriarchy, we are all taught patriarchal thinking. We're all taught sexist thinking. We have to unlearn that sexist thinking if we're going to dismantle patriarchy. And so many women, latch onto feminism without ever actually letting go of that sexist thinking. They don't unlearn it. They don't go through consciousness raising. They just claim feminism for themselves and use it for their own self-promotion. And that's what I mean about, like, Hillary Clinton. Because a lot of the feminisms that we see in media are these very blasé, surface-level feminisms that say, oh, go girl, female empowerment, empowered women, empower other women, girl boss. There is no, like, the critical feminisms don't actually gain traction. Like militant feminism, Like it's all neoliberal feminism, girl boss feminism, lean in feminism. That's what it's all about. It's about leaning in. And it's the idea that if women acquire power, that's good for all women, but it's not. Because as she said, that type of empowerment very rarely, if ever, helps other low-income women, low-income women, middle-class women. It doesn't do anything for them. Brianna Joy Gray may go check out her live stream from Sunday night. She and Pascal Robert from Black Agenda Report, they actually made very similar arguments about the Black community. So I would recommend that you go and check that out, because this is very true that whether it's sexism, whether it's racism, like when we have a fake meritocratic system, the idea that this is under capitalism, like feminist capitalism, Black capitalism, however you want to say it. Very often, the idea is when we have a brown face in a high place, when we have a female face in a high place, that's good for the entire community, but it's not, because who gets left behind? Who gets left behind? Who actually gets power? Is it individual who gets power, or is it the whole community that gets power? It's the individual. And they don't come back and share it with the rest of the community. They don't. They just don't. And they use this idea that, everyone, all women or all the Black community, whoever, everyone is powerless. Everyone is powerless. Let me read this out. Women are acknowledging helplessness and powerlessness, as well as a need for support. In this case, the support of fellow feminist activists, sisters. It was also closely related to the shallow notion of sisterhood. So this is very different from solidarity, as I mentioned. And again, we'll get into that a little bit later. So how can we actually be supporting women? So there's a couple of thoughts here. And I actually want to bring up another tweet, because this kind of gets into another criticism that I want to make about feminism and capitalism. So let me bring this up. This came from Queer a la Mode earlier today. Hold on, I want to look at this one real quick. So was Shirley Chisholm in Congress? Yes. Shirley Chisholm, she became a member of Congress in the 1960s. She was the very first Black woman to be in Congress. And she was a fantastic congresswoman. Like, I have nothing but good things to say about Shirley Chisholm. And she did run for president in 1972. She wanted support from the Women's Caucus, or the National Women's Party, and she had it up until a certain point of like a very certain point of the convention. But then there's like, okay, we've had our fun, so we're not going to support Shirley Chisholm anymore. We're going to go over to McGovern, even though like there were some of the women who wanted to support Shirley Chisholm until the very end, in order to gain concessions, but that unfortunately did not happen. Anyway, but nothing. There's a great documentary about Shirley Chisholm that I would highly recommend. It's called Chisholm 72 Unbought and Unbossed, I believe. I may have to double check that, but definitely watch that. It's fantastic. So let me bring up this other tweet from Queer a la Mode, Ryan Wentz from Soapbox, because he got a video from this podcast with Jamila Jamil, Chelsea Handler, and Amy Schumer. So let me rewind that.
However much we may all hate capitalism, and however much we may acknowledge the evils of capitalism that do exist, currently money is freedom for women. And I know that that is the dirty and wrong and unsocialist and un-Marxist thing to say, but being able to know that if I have an emergency, I don't have to rely on a man, and that I can make my own decisions, and that I as a businesswoman can hire other women and people of color and people from backgrounds that don't always get hired for jobs, gives me freedom ultimately. However much we may all hate capitalism, and however much we may acknowledge the evils of capitalism that do exist, currently, money is freedom for women. And I know that that is the dirty and women. And I know money is freedom for women. And money is freedom for women. And I know that that is the dirty and wrong and unsocialist and un-Marxist thing to say, but being able to know that if I have an emergency, I don't have to rely on a man, and that I can make my own decisions, and that I as a businesswoman can hire other women and people of color and people from backgrounds that don't always get hired for jobs, gives me freedom ultimately. However much we...
Right. Sorry about that, guys. I wanted to play that a couple of times, just that way you heard her very clearly. Because I also wanted to replay that a few times of where she says, money is power for women. And I don't disagree with her. I don't disagree. But the way that she's saying it, that, you know, that money is power for women and within capitalism, that's what she's talking about. She's talking about, since we don't live in a socialist society at this time, that putting money into the hands of women, making sure that we're doing that, is a good thing. And again, she's not necessarily wrong. Like, money, putting money to the hands of women is a good thing. And we should be making sure that women do have money in their pockets, men too. What she's wrong about is this idea that, you know, under capitalism, that money is necessarily freedom for women. Because again, it's this idea of, okay, but which women get money? Like, she's talking about, you know, having the freedom to hire women and make sure that women don't have to rely on men for money. But under capitalism, that's still a thing. That's still a thing. Like, you're not going to be able to help all women just by saying, like, oh, you know, I as a woman, I have the freedom. I have the ability because I have money. Because she does. She's an actress. She has money. She's a businesswoman. That because she has money to help women and help other people of color by giving them jobs, that not only gives her freedom, but gives other people freedom, which is kind of nonsensical. Like, it's truly just kind of really nonsensical. Like, as you know, Rob says, like, why don't women in poverty simply become famous, successful actresses? Like, and let me show her her defense of herself. So she says, way to take or remove all context. And this is about me being able to have the money to run a company that solely exists to support and platform activists, create free mental health content, and change policy to create policy to help the mental health of minors. Hardly girl boss shit. My point was that if we don't do it, white billionaire men won't. So while we work towards socialism, which is way off, let's put the money in the hands of those who can help others, rather than we bow out and hope the greedy white male billionaires help the marginalized. And again, it's not that she's wrong in this. Like, her point there is not bad. Like, we absolutely should be putting money into the hands of, people who need it. But to say we have to have female capitalists in order to defeat the male capitalists, or we need to have black capitalists in order to defeat the white male capitalists, that's not helpful, because we're still living under capitalism. So that's kind of exactly, Steve. Like, girl billionaire equals good. No. All billionaires are bad. All billionaires are bad. But so that's my critique of what she has to say. Okay, I have to highlight this because this is too good not to share. Her heart may be in a good place. I love your wordplay here, Weird Pilgrim. That is excellent wordplay. Fantastic. I love it. Her heart may be in a good place. Her analysis, not so much. I have to give you props for that one, Where. That's good wordplay. I don't even know that, Jace. I'm pretty sure you're being sarcastic here, because we also know that Queen Rihanna is also making money from exploiting people. Yes. I would love to be able to say all amazing things about Rihanna. I love Rihanna, but let's be realistic. She did not make those billions with good ethics practices. No, she did not. Because you cannot ethically make $1 billion. You just can't. That's not possible. You just can't. So this is what I'm saying, is because we can say, oh yes, let's just have more female billionaires. Let's just have more black billionaires. Let's just have more Latina billionaires. But you cannot ethically be making billions of dollars without exploiting people. I love what Bill says here. So Bill says it was still self-centered. Good. Yes. This is all about, you're absolutely right here, Bill. This is still about individualism. This is still, even though, because she's centering individuals doing good. She's not talking about the collective good. She's talking about, we need to put the hands into a few good people, and so that way they can do good. And she says that here, which is a ways off. Let's put the money in the hands of those who can help others. But how do we know who those people are? How do we know? Can we just trust her word that she's the right person to put our money into their hands? So Bill is absolutely right here that this is still, she's centering herself and her ability to be a good businesswoman, to center activists, whoever she says that she's centering. Let me go back to that tweet. Let me go back to that. Right. So she says, this is about me, just as Bill said, this is about me being able to have the money to run a company that solely exists to support and platform activists. So she's centering herself as the savior who can lift other people up. Which that is not just her duty. And that's the problem with what she's saying. This is still a very individualist and atomistic argument. It was still it was about her freedom, not the freedom of all women, not the freedom of all oppressed people. It was about her freedom to uplift other people, her ability to uplift other people. We should be with her. This is one person. Like, I can solve these problems. No, you can't by yourself. You can't. Because she could have said she wants to use her position to empower others. She could have simply messages differently. Exactly. Like, if she wants to uplift other people, I'm all for it. Like, I support that. I support her willingness to do good. but not on her own. She can't do it in an individualist way. We can't, like, capitalism will never help us dismantle capitalism. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Violet. Talk about ethics. She wears furs from torture animals. The animal rights people have protested her, Meg. I can't dispute that. I cannot dispute that. And, you know, I am all for animal activism, 100%. Like, I know, I'm pretty sure I know who this Violet is. Like, I know we've had a disagreement on the fact that I do eat meat, but I do think that you can do so sustainably. We can disagree on how that's possible. That's fine. We are welcome to disagree on that. But absolutely, I do agree that we should address the fact that she does wear fur. So we should definitely address that fact, that you can't say, oh, you know, I'm for the betterment of the people, of the environment, without addressing this. And I 100% agree on that. Do other women trust Native red women to get their land back? That is a great question, Cody. That is a fantastic question. And you're absolutely right on that. That if we're all for, you know, trusting women, supporting women, why are we not supporting, you know, Indigenous women in, you know, protecting their water, of granting them land rights? Why are we not supporting women in this way? Because this is not about supporting women. That's not what this is about. That's not what any of this is about, guys. This is about their class elitism and the fact that they want to gain power. Because in the long run, if this was really about supporting women, if that's what this was truly, really about, then, you know, guess what actually helps women? Guess what helps women? Medicare for all. As Medicare for all, it ends, like, one of the reasons that a lot of women end up getting married is for health insurance. And a lot of the reasons that women can't get divorced is because of health insurance. So a lot of women end up trapped in domestic violence situations. Black women, 3 times more likely to die of maternal mortality. Trans women would be able to get access to gender reaffirming surgery. Same, trans men as well. Free housing. Free housing is a big issue. A living wage. Ending the climate crisis. Because there's a lot of environmental racism that exists. Are Black women not women? Should they not be helped? Are Indigenous women, should we be pouring oil through their homes, through their land, and saying that that land doesn't belong to them when it does, breaking their treaties? So, healthcare, living wage, ending the climate crisis. What else? Give me some more, guys. Give me some more housing. Give me some more ways so we can support women. Oh, ending student debt, because guess what? Black women have the most student debt. A living wage is important because women are more likely to work in lower income jobs. And the thing about lower income jobs, they don't have benefits, meaning they have no maternity leave or parental leave, paid leave, however you want to say it. They don't have maternity leave. No. Women, 43% of births have been on Medicaid. 43% of pregnancies occur on Medicaid. Because a lot of women work in lower income jobs. Oh yeah, they also don't have healthcare. Most of those low income jobs don't have healthcare. A lot of women can't take time off for childcare or elderly care. Because most of the women most of the people who are caretakers are also women, either of elders or of children. So give me some more, guys. What are some more ways that we can actually support women? This is actually a really good point, Jade. You should figure out why more women don't support other women. That is a good point, and a lot of that does also a lot of the fact that majority of female voters supported Trump over Hillary Clinton, and also I'm not sure. I believe it was still true against Biden as well. I would have to look that up, but that a lot of that has to do with their economic concerns and the fact that white supremacy. And that's the truth. A lot of that has to do with class and race. Oh, another great point, Sam's. Sex trafficking at these pipelines is horrible to Indigenous women. That's also true. And if we're going to talk about that, should also talk about what's happening to women at the border, considering women at the border are being raped. Women are also, particularly Black women, are also raped by cops. We should also mention that. So abolishing the police would certainly help us with that. But the fact that women in these border centers, a lot of them, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure a lot of you guys have read about this, about the forced hysterectomies that were being performed on women at the border. There's a long history of particularly women of color, and particularly Black women, who had forced hysterectomies throughout. Particularly, there's a great documentary about Latina women who had forced hysterectomies during the 1970s in California. I highly recommend. It's called No Mas Bebes. So I highly recommend that you watch that. Yeah, absolutely, Nadia. So yeah, 55% of white women not supporting other women. Nope. And that's exactly the point that I'm trying to make, Jade, is that since we live in patriarchy, we still have patriarchal thinking. We have sexist thinking that we are trained from birth to believe in. That's a hegemony. That's the ideology that we were all raised believing in. So we have to undo that sexist thinking in order to ever be able to dismantle patriarchy, to dismantle white supremacy. The way that Bell Hooks describes it, to dismantle imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy. And, Bill, now that you bring up abortion, so I do believe that abortion is healthcare. Abortion is healthcare. But for people who are against abortion, let me bring up a few ways that we can end abortion. How about a living wage? How about affordable childcare for women, or free childcare? Let me go with that. Free childcare. So living wage, free childcare, a maternity leave. Because a lot of women choose not to have children because they can't even take time off work. So living wage, being able to, a lot of those are very helpful. Particularly the fact that in this country, we shame women. Like, we shame women for having abortions, but we also shame women for not having abortions. You ever notice that? Because a lot of the women who can't afford to have an abortion, and so many can't, or they can't, and abortion or adoption is not always the answer too, because considering we have such a dysfunctional foster care system. That's another thing that we need to consider. And Simone Biles actually talked about that. I would highly recommend that you look at, I think it's still on her stories. I'm not entirely sure. But, you know, there's a lot of dysfunction. And if we can make it easier for women to have children, or education is also another way to stop abortion, that not only just sex education, which we need to have good quality sex education that actually teaches not only women but men how to have healthy relationships and how to have sex in a safe way. Free birth control is another thing. We need to be more, to normalize birth control more. And understand we need to increase education, because it's been shown that educated women have fewer children. So all these different ways are ways that we can actually curb abortion, and also the fact that we have so many hungry children. We have so many hungry children, so many kids living in poverty because of so much dysfunction in our system. This is what it really is about, guys. It's a dysfunction in our system. So if you want to stop abortions, you have to be able to dismantle a lot of these other systems. Otherwise, they are going to continue to happen. So if you truly want to be pro-life, then maybe be willing to fight for a living wage. Be willing to fight for free childcare. Be willing to fight for maternity leave. Because guess what? Without any of those things, you're going to continue to have abortions. Fight for actual good sex ed. Fight for birth control. In a lot of we've seen through like Hobby Lobby and those types of lawsuits, there are a lot of companies who don't want to cover your birth control. Birth control stops abortion. So these are all ways that. Great, JC. Yeah, I chose not to have kids of economics and the climate disaster. I don't want to set them up for failure. I completely agree with that, JC. I completely see where you're coming from, because so often, like a lot of the parents who. Oh, Sam5, I'm going to come to your comment in just a second. There's. Like, we have so many crises in our world right now. Why do we want to bring children into this world? Like, there's so much that we have to think about. About reasons why people don't want to have children. Mental health care is huge. My sister had postpartum depression, and thank God she had that access. Absolutely, Sam. 100%. Like, mental health care is huge. And like, not only just postpartum depression, but women have much higher rates of anxiety and depression. And so we definitely need, but I mean, look at the world that we're living in. Who does not have anxiety and depression? Like, it's amazing that we get through the day, truly. So this is what is in my mind when I think about, what it means to support women. Is that I think of supporting women from a grassroots, ground up point of view of, the fact that we need to have these, I don't want to call them safety nets, but these basic needs met, like housing, education, healthcare, food. Like, how many women can't feed their kids, or how many kids are going hungry? Like, we need to be able to meet these basic needs. And this is why I am a socialist feminist. because I believe in dismantling this system. That's the way we support women. We don't support women in a capitalist system just by supporting women in power. That's not going to do anything for us. So this is why I believe in a very, like there's another great book here that I have for you guys that you can read. I've recommended it before. Feminism for the 99%. This is basically an argument for, more grassroots militant feminism. That we need to be in the streets, we need to be protesting, we need to be fighting for these basic rights. We need to be ending imperialism. Because if we don't end imperialism, then it doesn't matter how much equality we have in this country. Guess what? There's still women who are being oppressed. It doesn't matter if it's another woman who's oppressing them. Because that's a very Western way of thinking. So let me bring up this last point, because this is another way that we can be supporting women. Let me bring this up. Where is it? Oh, here we go. So this is a tweet from Tara Reid talking about Cuomo's resignation. She says, the revelations in Cuomo's resignation is a signal to the powerful men with nasty behavior that survivors' voices will be heard and their behavior no longer rewarded. Not from a governor and not from the President of the United States. Because this is unfortunately a lot. So first off, I want to start by saying that if you understand the way that rape works, and I did a lot, like this is what I wrote my entire master's thesis on, guys, is I wrote about Me Too and about speak outs and the history of the definition of rape and sexual assault and understanding how that argument was framed, how those discussions were framed. And one of the people that I follow, she talks about a continuum of violence against women, or what we can call rape culture. The continuum of violence against women basically argues that the way that we talk about rape and sexual assault, and it begins at very base level, sexual harassment. Just general little comments that get made. The fact that men say it and do these things, other men don't stop them from doing it. And that women, a lot of the times, internalize it and believe, like, oh, this is just par for the course of being a woman. This is just what I have to deal with being a woman in the workplace. Oh, it wasn't that bad. Like, it was just a joke. It wasn't that bad. I shouldn't take it so seriously. It's not like I was raped. It's not like we are taught to internalize these things and find ways of reducing them and saying like, oh no, you know what? Like, sure, he touched me inappropriately, but it's not like he raped me. And because we make these smaller things allowable, it's like, oh, it was just a joke. That little joke makes it okay for someone to maybe kiss you on the cheek without permission, which I've had that happen to me. Maybe a little pat on the butt. Like, okay, maybe they kissed you without permission. Oh, but that's not okay. Fine, but it's not like I was raped. Oh, maybe they touched you inappropriately. It just keeps on going and going and going and going until finally rape and even murder of women. Beating women. Oh, but he's still a good guy. Is he though? And this is another way that very often we don't support women, is that we don't support survivors when they come out with their stories. And I've said this in other streams, and I'll say it again. Very few women who come forward with accusations come forward with false accusations. Out of the very few women who actually do come forward, I would have to look up the percentage. Let me Google that real quick while I have you guys here. Okay. All right, so here's some statistics for you guys. Let me actually bring it up. That way you can see them. Well, Dems did not let Cosby out. It was a judge. Okay. 1 in 5 women in the United States experience completed or attempted rape during their lifetime. 1 in 5. 24% of men in the U.S. experience some form of sexual violence in their lifetime. So a quarter of men. So 24.8% of men, 20% of women. Nationwide, 81% of women and 43% of men reported experience some form of sexual harassment. 1 in 3 female victims of completed or attempted rape experienced it for the first time between the ages of 11 and 17. 1 in 4 male victims of completed or attempted rape first experienced it between the ages of 11 and 17. So 1/3 of women, a quarter of men. So yes, men definitely do experience rape and sexual assault and sexual harassment, but not at the rate of women. Let's just be clear on that. 40% of rapes. So here's the number that I was looking for, you guys. 40% of rapes and sexual assaults were reported to police in 2017. But only 25% were reported to police in 2018. So even after Me Too, this Me Too happened in 2017. Where 40% of rapes and sexual assaults were reported. Only a quarter of rapes and sexual assaults were reported in 2018. That's 25% of all rapes and sexual assaults. And only between 2 and 10% are false reports. So think about that. 2% of the 25%, 2% of the 25% that actually reported were false. 2 to 10%. Of that's very small already number of women who actually came forward. Think about that for a moment. And look at this. The estimated lifetime cost of rape is $122,461 per victim. And that's probably like missed time of work. Because I don't know, like I know that's something that a lot of women experience, that they can't, because they're traumatized, they can't go to school, they can't go to work. Maybe they lose their job because they can't go to work, or they're not working at the same rate that they did before they were assaulted or raped. Maybe that's all their mental health bills. So that's one thing that we could definitely do to support women, which is we can be supporting also domestic violence shelters, making sure that women and men can get the help that they need. But I just want to reiterate that point, guys. 2 to 10% of a quarter, only a quarter, 25% of people who actually report to the police. Only a quarter. And yet they wonder why women don't come forward when women aren't believed. But no, we have to look at the person who is the accuser and say, oh no, she has to be lying because, you know, of this, maybe she was drinking, maybe, but what was she wearing? Was she drinking? What was she wearing? What did she say to him? Was she flirt? Are you sure you weren't flirting? This is the way that we minimize assault against women. So maybe that's one way that we can support women is by believing women. I'm just saying. That's a good question. Yes, JC. And of the percentage, and that's not even just the percentage of the prosecutor, that percentage who are prosecuted and convicted, that's have the very much smaller number who actually get charged. Because yeah, only a quarter reported to the police. What smaller percentage of that actually charge them with a crime? Because a lot of them don't. So only 2% of the ones who actually get charged and get brought to the court, which is an even smaller number. The number just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Like Bill Cosby, he was a write-off. Remember that kid too from Stanford? That kid, he was, oh, we can't ruin his future. We can't ruin his future. What about her future? He's such a promising young man. Well, wasn't she a promising young woman? No. Yeah. And the fact that even when we do get justice, thank you, Optimism of the Whale, for bringing this up. Even when women do get justice, look what happens. Cosby got let out because the prosecution used inadmissible evidence. So the justice system let Cosby out on a technicality. Cosby was let out on a technicality. Fuck justice for those women. Their justice. Is that justice? No. But let's support women at the top. Yeah. Well, there was a case of a woman that assaulted her. And it's not that doesn't happen. Like, I'm not going to say that doesn't happen, because it does. And unfortunately, one of the realities too, and this also comes from patriarchy, is that when men are assaulted, very often unless they were assaulted by another man, like this, that's another story. But when men are assaulted by women, very often, the narrative becomes like, oh, but you got to have sex. Like, dude, why are you complaining? You got to have sex. Because, that's the masculine mindset of, like, no, we need to take all sexual assault seriously. Because here's the thing, y'all, is that, again, sexual assault and rape, it's not about sex. It's not about sex. It's about power. And that's what this all comes down to. We've been talking about that all during this entire stream. It's about power. And yeah, women want power. That's something we've been talking about this whole stream. That women want power. Power is beautiful. Power can be beautiful, right? Do we think just men want power? No, women abuse their power too. Women abuse their power too, against other men as well. No one's saying that we don't. But the only thing I will say is that men just happen to use their power over women much more frequently than women use their power over men. And that's where the discrepancy lies. And that's what patriarchy is. This has nothing, this is not saying men are bad. It's not saying that women are bad. This is just saying that we need to understand power. And that's what all this boils down to. Okay, so I think we are good to kind of leave it there. Do you guys have any other questions or comments? Go ahead and put them in. Yes, Nadia. Kimberly Goodfill, anyone? What a girl boss. What a girl boss. What a girl boss. You see, though, this is why I hate that girl boss feminism. Because girl boss feminism is just about acquiring power. That's what it's all about. It has nothing to do with actually, like, and this is why I will keep on pressing on this issue, that when we talk about supporting women, I don't want to hear support. I want to hear solidarity. We need to have solidarity with other women. And that means that they also have to show solidarity to us. Because support can be built on a very flimsy, a weak structure, as Bell Hooks said, as I read. We need to have solidarity with one another. Like, we can't, like, sisterhood is good in concept, but again, it's like the idea of sisterhood, kind of paints a picture that women are a monolith. The women are not a monolith. We have different interests. We have different lived experiences. Particularly, like, I as a white woman have a very different lived experience from my comrades and my other female comrades in the Fred Hampton leftists. And so I don't have sisterhood with them, but I do have solidarity with them. Because I don't only care about myself as a woman, I care about them as women. And we may not have, thank you so much, Mass Left. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It is. You're 100% right. Girl boss feminism is inherently capitalistic. Thank you. That is exactly the point I am trying to make. Girl boss feminism, neoliberal feminism, however you want to say it, it's very capitalistic in nature, because it's about women acquiring power in the patriarchal and capitalist system. It is about gaining mobility in that system. Absolutely. With solidarity and suffering. Not everyone's suffering is the same, but we can work together to resolve each other's various sufferings. Absolutely. Yes, Bill. That's exactly what solidarity is. Like, even though I definitely have, my own, as a white woman, like as a working class white woman, I have things that I care about that impact me. But because I have solidarity with other women, then I care about what they need as well. Like, I care about women, indigenous women who are suffering. I care about my black friends who are suffering, women and men. Like, we're in solidarity together because we have common suffering. We do have some common suffering, but there's a lot of things that I don't experience. I don't want them to experience either. I need to be observant of my privilege. And this is one thing that I am, like, a lot of people don't know that I am actually an immigrant. I moved here from Canada when I was 7 years old in 1995. And even though my immigration experience was very different. Like, it still cost us a lot of money to become citizens. It took us 13 years to become citizens from the time that we moved here. I became a citizen in 2008, right before the 2008 election. And the day after I became a citizen, I registered to vote, and I became a volunteer for Obama's campaign. But my immigration experience, like, I spent a lot of time at INS, you guys. It is not fun. So even though my experience was not fun, I imagine the experience of people who are not like me. Like, as much as it's not fun that I had to go through the immigration process, like, I was privileged to be able to go through the immigration process. I was privileged that we had the money to go through the immigration process and become citizens. A lot of people don't have that. So as much as, I want to bulk the immigration system, I want the immigration system to be easier so that other people don't have to go through that. I want to make the immigration system easier so that people behind me becoming citizens don't have to deal with the same shit that we went through. And that people who are coming into this country and can't even go through the immigration system, that they're not being locked in cages. Because that's fucked up. And I don't want that for anybody. I had the privilege of coming to this country through the immigration system. And I want that privilege for other people. And that is how I show my solidarity, is by fighting for them. Because I understand my privilege. I understand my privilege. And I want to use my privilege for the good of other people. And that is solidarity. That is not support. That is solidarity. And that is what we need to be sharing with people. I love this. Yes, I'm a big fan of empathy. Empathy is critical. Empathy absolutely is critical. I don't even know how to address that, to be honest. You're absolutely right with that, Bill. And that's exactly the point. Because people who are comfortable, they don't want to give up that comfort. They don't want to give up that comfort. Like, no, it's easier just to, it's easier just to accept incrementalism. You take what you can get because they don't have that urgency because they're not suffering. So how can they show? It's very difficult for people with class privilege and white privilege to show solidarity with people who are suffering when they're not. You're absolutely right. And that's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate. We need more class traders. We need more class traders. Hi, Savvy. So glad you're here. Thank you for coming. Hey, Savvy. Hope you're enjoying the stream. All right, we're only going to be here for a couple more minutes, guys. So if there's any more comments or questions that you have, definitely let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I really do. Make sure I didn't miss anything else. I want to see this point. And we don't want equality in that dynamic. We want to eliminate it as much as possible. No one to use anyone. Absolutely, yes. Because that's not really equality. That's still oppression. If anyone is using power over each other, and like that, that's not to say that I don't believe that people should be, I believe that people should be paid what they're worth and that they should get paid for their labor. But I definitely don't believe that people should have power over one another. That's complicated. But yeah, we should definitely eliminate as many positions of power. Like, we should definitely have as much, I'm trying to think communal power as we can, collective power. That's what I was trying to say. We need to have as much collective power as possible and have as few positions of power as possible. Women need a lever to take advantage of a man. A man does not need the same leverage. That is unfortunately very true. Yep, there is such a thing called informed consent. Consent is a very, very, very important. If you do not get a yes, it's not consent. Affirmative yes is the only way that you get consent, guys. Sorry, just spilling coffee all over myself. Okay. I never said I was classy. I never said that I was perfect. I spill coffee. It happens. I'm not very graceful. Yes. The power of cooperative effort. Absolutely. And this is one of the things that, why femininity is like, when you look at what's considered feminine and what's considered masculine, like very often what's considered masculine is competition, and what's considered feminine is collaboration and cooperation. And we need more collaboration and cooperation. We need more of that. We need to be and also, emotional health, mental health, using our words. Yes, we do need more co-ops. We need to be working together. People-powered progress. People-powered work. Okay, guys. All right. I think I'm all caught up. Oh, elected co-ops. That's an interesting point. Agreed. Elites brush mental health under the rug. Yes, they do. Because the whole idea of capitalism is, hide your emotions, work. Which is very much linked with patriarchy. Capitalism, patriarchy, the idea of, must work 80 hours a day, must, don't show emotion, don't cry, no sleep, must work, must have brute strength, must do more labor. And, our bodies are not built for that, y'all. Our bodies are not built for that. Our brains are not built for that. And that is very much a capitalist and a very patriarchal mindset. We need to break through that. Okay. All right. I think that I'm pretty much caught up. Okay. So before I go, guys, so please make sure to like, share, subscribe. Go over to my channel, the Killjoy Guide podcast. Check out the things I have there. I just posted a video on Tuesday of a interview that I did with Sean O'Brien from Panquake. And we talked about Panquake is a new up-and-coming social media platform that prizes anti-censorship. They're not going to do timeline manipulation. They're all about you keeping your data and your security. So go over there, check them out, check out that video. Also, remember to check out my video with Tara Reid. And I have much more coming down the pipeline. I'm also working on some new merch. It's going to go in the FHL merch shop. So definitely can't wait for you guys to see that. I have some posters and stickers and hopefully some t-shirts getting ready to come out. So you are, for Panquake, you're right, gamer, that you do have to pay for Panquake, but they do have go watch the video because they do talk about that and about ways around that. But yeah, so definitely, yes, Malik, merch. Because guys, capitalism isn't like selling merch is not capitalism. We can also do that in socialism. Just get paid for our labor. That's the whole point. Everyone deserves to get paid for their labor. Okay, so I already talked about merch. Make sure to go to thekilljoyguide.com to learn how you can support the show. I have the Patreon link up there, and I am now also building my Discord server. So look out for the Discord server. Right now, it is only for patrons, so check that out. I'm building it out to be something that will be open for most people with just some services for patrons, but definitely go check that out. Please help support the show and support FHL. Go to Ko-fi, ko.fi.com/FHL network to support Fred Hampton Leftists, and also make sure to support all of my comrades here at Fred Hampton Leftists. All right, guys. Tomorrow we do have Savvy's show, And I know we have other things going on the pipeline. I'm not sure what's happening on Nerdolitics yet, but I will definitely keep you updated. But there's lots of awesome Nerdolitics merch that you can get right now. So definitely go check that out. Support the show. All right, guys. That is all for me. So, all right, let me make sure that I have everything. All right, guys. This has been the Killjoy Guide, the Left Feminist podcast for the 99%. I am your host, Killjoy Meg. I'll see you Killjoys next time. Bye. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another video. See you Killjoys next time.
Let me